9:06, we're going to get a phone call.
Okay.
Right on the set. Everybody's phones off.
Thanks. Just made it.
Mhm.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Roy Blitzer, and our show is Ask Dr. Business. The purpose of our time together is to provide information and insight to your life at the job. The desired outcome is you're going to take this counsel and become a happy and more satisfied employee. We are continuing our series on part-time workers and part-time jobs, and we're very fortunate tonight to have with us Karl Levitt. Karl is in his second phase of his career. He has two part-time jobs. He's an emeritus professor at UC Davis, and he also works part-time as a consultant for the National Science Foundation. Please feel free to call any questions for him. The phone number is 650-856-1491. Welcome.
Thank you, Roy. It's a delight.
I'd like you to tell our audience a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up? What did you study? And how did you get to where you are now?
Again, thank you, Roy. It's a delight to be here. I grew up in the Bronx from lower middle class family, and I went to the Bronx High School of Science, I'm proud to say, one of the most prestigious high schools in the country. Then I went to Cooper Union, a free private school, sort of an anomalous situation. And then I got a PhD at NYU. I worked part-time for United Aircraft Corporation. I didn't like that kind of job. So then I got a PhD, and after that I went to Stanford Research Institute, which is now called SR International. I was a researcher there. I worked there 20 years, and then I became a manager. I didn't like managing, so I decided to another career at UC Davis, where I'm a professor of computer science, and I was there for 32 years. I just retired about 6 months ago, and then I'm part-time there, as Roy, you mentioned before, as an emeritus faculty member, and I work part-time for the National Science Foundation, and I help run workshops there. I help spend their money, and that's the purpose of the National Foundation, to spend money on research. And I enjoy doing that. I enjoy doing both jobs, and I'm looking forward to doing part-time work for many years.
Well, how many hours a week do you work part-time?
So probably about 3 days a week for UC Davis, and it's in part pro bono, mostly pro bono, in fact. Maybe a day a week for the
That's
National...
part-time and free. That's a pretty good deal they've got.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, okay. But it keeps me busy, and then maybe a day a week for the National Science Foundation. It's more in spurts, though.
So tell us a little bit about the job at Davis. What would you do as a part-time emeritus faculty there?
Okay, so one thing is I don't have to teach. Okay. Okay, so I was teaching for 32 years. I enjoyed it, but it got, I wouldn't say it got tedious after a while, but it got difficult. Our classes are huge, as they are in many schools in the country now, because particularly in very popular fields like computer science, so we would have 150 to 250 students in a class.
You did get a teaching assistant, though, I hope.
One or two. Okay, yeah.
At San Jose State, they give us, with 90 students, you get one teaching assistant.
Okay, we did a little bit better than that, maybe 1.5 for 90 students. Okay, yeah. But and the teaching assistants work very hard, but it would take me 8 hours to prepare a 1 hour lecture. Okay, so it was,
And now what do you do for them?
Okay, so I do primarily research. Okay, so I have graduate students.
And tell us about the research you're doing.
Okay, sure. I work on computer security, and I try to think about, okay, future threats to our nation's computers, and try to think how we might battle them. And I think I have job security, given what's happening with attackers these days, and try to think about future attacks and how we might handle them.
So you have to drive up to Davis to teach, to do this kind of work?
I don't,
or can you do it remotely?
I stay there for 2 or 3 days. Okay, so.
Wow.
Okay, so and lodging's cheaper there than Palo Alto, so it's not bad. Okay.
And how do you have to supervise people? You don't have to manage people there?
Oh, I supervise graduate students and postdocs. Okay, and I work with colleagues.
It sounds like it's fun.
It is fun. Yes, exactly.
Well, let's see if we can get a question or two from our audience. Welcome again. This is Ask Dr. Business. The phone number here is 650-856-1491. And I'm here interviewing Karl Levitt. Our show is part-time jobs, and Karl is fascinatingly busy with 2 part-time jobs. One is an emeritus professor at UC Davis, and the other is a part-time consultant and worker at National Science Foundation. So tell us about the National Science Foundation job.
Okay.
What do you do for them?
Okay, so the purpose of the National Foundation is to spend money. Okay, they fund most of the academic science research in the country, about $7 billion a year, slightly more than that. And so they fund, so, as you know, academics, particularly in universities, need money. They need money to support graduate students. And most of that money does come from the National Science Foundation. 84% of the academic research money comes from the National Science Foundation. And they fund almost everything to do with science, okay?
And so your job is to help distribute that money?
Help spend the money, exactly.
Wow, that's a great job. And you get to analyze the projects the young graduate students are working on, or do you just give it to the school?
Well, no, well, we mostly throw the money over the fence, okay? Okay, and we let them do what they want. But we try to make good decisions. We try to decide what to fund, what areas to fund in. So we try to think ahead about what's going to be important areas in the future. So I try to think about what's going to be important in computer security to fund and what we shouldn't fund. So we try not to fund work that industry is going to do.
Well, how many people work part-time at the foundation, would you say?
That's a good
question. Are you
question.
among many or a few?
I would say a handful.
A handful?
Yeah, okay. Most people there are full-time. They're full-time employees, or they're academics who are there on rotation from.
So how did you get the job? Can you tell us what happened? Did they know you retired?
Okay,
They know you were available?
So I fell into it. Okay, so I worked there for 4 years while I was at Davis.
In addition to your Davis job?
Well, no, I took a leave from Davis.
Got it.
Yeah, so I sort of fell into the job.
And you moved to Washington?
I lived in Washington, Arlington, Virginia, actually. Yes, exactly.
So they knew you?
They knew me, yes. Okay.
And then what?
And then, well, then I retired. They said, okay, we want to come back and help us. Okay.
So tell us a little bit about your routine. Do you have to, can you do any of this remotely, or do you have to go to Virginia to do your work?
So yeah, in the past, we all had to be there when we ran panels. Now they can run panels remotely.
You use Zoom?
Or Skype or various web applications. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. And so that's pretty recent, which is good. Okay. In the past, you had to be there in person to run panels. Now you can do them remotely, but it's better to be there. Okay.
So you run the panel, then you write it up?
Well, yeah, write up the panel, exactly. You have to, so when we get proposals, in a typical couple of days, we review 30 proposals in 2 days. And then the panel makes a decision, helps make decisions. I help to guide them to the decisions, and then they write up the summaries, and I have to write up the panels.
So are you the only one working in the part-time section there, or no?
No, I guess it must be maybe a dozen or so, I would say, at least in computer science. I don't know. I don't know about other areas, though.
Okay, so you work there 3 days a week, then you come back to Palo Alto?
Yeah. Right. Yes.
So your part-time job keeps you very busy.
Yes, it does.
Well, how does it compare to a full-time job?
Well, let's see. So
I guess the load of a teacher is not 100 hours a week.
Exactly. See, I don't have to teach. Okay. So not having to teach relieves a significant burden on my life. Okay.
What was a full-time faculty at Davis? How many classes a semester did you teach? 4?
So I'm embarrassed to say no. Okay. So normally we teach 4 quarter classes a year. Typically, we teach less than that because the classes are large. You get some.
I think your full-time job was easier than your part-time jobs. Maybe not.
Maybe not. Okay, no. Yeah, teaching is time-consuming. Okay.
Well, certainly the work following up the teaching.
Sure.
So you come back to Palo Alto. Do you have any time where you don't do anything, or between that and you're teaching, it sounds like you're
Well,
working
so-
a lot.
That's right. So I'm not fully into retirement yet. Okay.
Okay. Well, talk a little bit about some of the advantages of working part-time at the foundation, for example. What would your life be like if you worked there full-time versus what you have now?
Okay, well, okay, so full-time, you're sort of more a member of the group, okay? So you help make budget decisions, which I don't do. Okay, you help establish priorities of what to fund, which I don't do. Okay.
So you don't do you don't get your vote.
I don't have a vote. Exactly, that's a good way to put it.
Interesting.
Exactly.
So you do all the interviewing, you write it up, and you can't vote.
I can't vote, exactly.
Interesting. Well,
Okay.
that is one disadvantage.
Sure, exactly. So,
What else?
Okay, so when I worked at National Foundation for 4 years when I was on leave, I used to spend a lot of time being involved with other government agencies. So there are a lot of government agencies involved with computer security, Treasury, State, okay, Homeland Security, okay, and I don't do much of that now at all. Okay, so I just mainly look
Do
at.
they give you an office? Do you come into a hotel? What do they do?
Well, an office time I share with others. Okay.
Okay, so like a hoteling office where other
Yeah,
people
and I
come
do
in?
stay in a hotel, okay, because lodging in the DC area is very expensive. So I wouldn't want to pay for an apartment back there now, for sure.
Well, let me solicit some questions. The number here is 650-856-1491. I'm here with Karl Levitt, who's chatting about his part-time life as a independent, or what I would call consultant, for the National Science Foundation. The number here is 650-856-1491, and our topic is part-time jobs. Now,
Yes.
talk a little bit about what the demands of the time that you're there. You're working part-time, but those days are full days when you're there?
Definitely, or more than full days.
Interesting.
Yeah, because one of the things we're sort of obligated to entertain. We have panelists. Okay, so we invite panelists to help us review proposals. Yeah, they get paid a little bit, not very much, and we entertain them for dinner. Okay, and they're always interested in knowing how I can get money from National Science Foundation. Okay, so I try to give them
Do
advice.
they give you an entertainment budget?
Actually, no, they don't. Actually, not. So, we have to
So
pay for
who pays for the dinner?
Well, they pay for their dinner, and I pay for my dinner.
You're kidding me.
No,
Really?
It's not so terrible. Yeah.
Well,
that's
it's
true.
not so terrible, but it's not what they would do
That's
if
true.
they came to Silicon
Well,
Valley for some.
That's true. Exactly. Yes.
Well, talk a little bit about the concept of, and I guess we didn't even prepare for this,
Mm-hmm.
compensation. Do they pay you at the same rate that they would a full-time employee, or are you like
that's a
an
good question.
adjunct guy, like a...
So they pay me. They have a consultant. The government has a consulting fee that they pay all consultants. I think no matter which department you work for.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's a standard fee?
Standard consulting fee. A lot of things are
By
standard
the
in the
day
government.
or the hour?
By the day. Okay. Okay. It's okay. It's
So
about-
they're paying you fairly. Truthfully.
I think it's fair. Exactly. If it was a full time, considering what it would be full time, it's fair. Okay.
So is it,
It's not excessive. Not excessive. The government doesn't. You don't get rich working for the government.
No, but you have major contributions.
Sure.
Tell me, what about performance appraisals? Does someone give you a review on how you're doing? Do you
Oh.
get any feedback about your performance?
I see. Well, informally, I think they could fire me if they'd like to. Okay, yeah. I don't have tenure there for sure. Okay.
Well, I'm sure no one part-time has tenure there. We didn't talk
Exactly.
about that. That's a
Exactly.
huge disadvantage.
Exactly. Yeah. But then again, okay, it's only part time. I still have my part time job at UC Davis as a retiree, and I get a pension thanks to California taxpayers.
Well, I guess what I'm fascinated by is usually part-time people can choose their hours. It sounds like you can't. If
cannot
you're
choose your
called
hours.
to Washington,
That's
you
right.
put in 10 hours, 12-hour days?
Typically, yes, exactly.
Wow.
That's right. So you can't call your hours there, exactly. Now, I can say that, I can't come in that day, and there's some flexibility in deciding what days you're going to run panels. There's some flexibility
We
there.
have a caller. This is Dr. Business. How can I help you? I'm sorry, I can't read your name. Is that Judy? No? Okay. We're having some difficulties, but there is someone on the phone. Hello, this is Dr. Business. Well, this is like the 60s when they say we're having technical difficulties. There is someone there, but for some reason we are unable to patch them in. Any luck? Well, why don't you and I keep talking, and perhaps by the time we're ready, they'll be able to get through to the viewer.
Sure.
We talked a little bit about compensation. We talked a little bit about hours.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is the major advantage that you have working? Ah, that's a sound I like to hear. Hello? No, we've lost them again, but that's okay. That's the wonder of cable TV and technology. So let's talk a little bit about the contribution you can make as a part-time worker.
Sure.
Would you feel that you're taken as seriously as you would be if you were there like you were before as a full-time employee?
Yeah, so probably not quite the same. Certainly not, at UC Davis, I'm not part of the crew. Okay.
Do you go to staff meetings?
I don't have to, but I do go. Okay.
Okay. You don't vote there either.
Actually, I do have a vote, but I don't get listened to as much as I used to. Okay.
That's an interesting point. I don't think any part-time people do. That's
exactly.
But what about the Science Foundation? Do they know you work part-time, or do the panelists know you work part-time? Do they treat you differently?
That's a good question. They do, because if you're on, since I don't really decide that much on who gets funded. Okay.
And they still want to have dinner with you. That's not a bad deal.
Well, maybe they think I have some power.
No, that's a very interesting point.
Yeah.
They probably perceive that
That's right.
because you're interviewing them, that
Sure.
you have input.
Yeah, and I was there before for 4 years. So.
But they wouldn't know that unless they came back for more.
Well, they might remember. Okay. If you ask
Okay,
for
so
money,
you don't have any voting. You may be looked at upon differently.
Correct.
Do you get interesting assignments, or do you get all the dregs?
That's a good question. I think
that's 3 good questions in a row.
So interesting enough, I would say. Okay. Yeah.
Do you have any control over that?
So I don't have any control over the budget. Okay. So
and no control over who you are assessing or who you are reporting on.
Correct. Yeah. I do have control over who gets funded, though. Okay. Because I'm on a panel, and when you lead a panel, you decide which proposals you review in that panel get funded. Okay, so I do have that. Now, I don't make the final decision. That's management's decision.
So you do a recommendation.
Exactly. I do a recommendation, and management makes the final decisions.
Well, can you tell us your track record?
A track record.
Do you? I mean, how many of you funded? Have they done well? What's the scoop, or is it too early?
That's a good question. Okay, sure. Well, the National Science Foundation, has a fairly good track record in general of funding good work. Okay, I would say they didn't fund the internet, but to begin with, but they funded a lot of work following the internet. Okay, what else? Okay, so I guess DARPA is more famous for funding some of the original work in robotics, the internet, something called packet radio, which is sort of gave rise to wireless technology. National Foundation sort of spends less money than DARPA. Okay. But they have funded some good things. They funded, let's say, in my area, they funded some very good work in
computer. So you've had a few successes.
Yeah, okay. In computer security, some, okay. So a number of people we funded founded companies, okay, and there are a lot of small startups in computer.
You get friends and family stock?
No.
Well, let me just solicit for more phone calls. Perhaps the phone will be working by the time we do that. The number here is 650-856-1491. I'm Roy Blitzer. Our show is Ask Dr. Business, and our series is Part-Time Jobs. We're very fortunate to have a real pro here, Karl Levitt, who has 2 part-time jobs. One is an emeritus at computer science at UC Davis, and the other is a part-time consultant at the National Science Foundation. I have an interesting question next. Would you say that the level of sophistication has increased in the people that are looking for money versus what you did when you were there before?
Oh, yes, for sure. Exactly. And there are many more of them, too.
Really?
Because, well, particularly in computer science. So, it's becoming an increasingly popular area. So I would guess there are like 2,000 PhDs come out every year.
Wow.
Okay, in computer science, just computer science. And most of them look for academic positions. Because that's one reason to go to get a PhD, so you get an academic position. But and there are maybe 1,000 academic positions a year open up. So the others go to Google, which is not bad, or Apple, or Yahoo, or Facebook.
So have you ever bumped into any of these people in the Bay Area after you've been on their panel?
Oh yes, for sure.
Really?
Oh yes, definitely.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Okay, and then they do very well. They make more than faculty members do.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right.
I don't think it's a financial issue. They don't.
Right. Yeah.
They don't have to worry, as my
Right.
mother would say. Well, talk a little bit about advice. If a young person came to you and said, I'm thinking of working part-time, what would you tell them?
Okay, well, if they're 25 years old,
Well, maybe they're 35.
I'd say, well, I don't know. I guess if you have a real hobby, something you really do, you just want to work part-time and you want to go traveling, you want to go hiking, you want to do gardening, you want to build houses, sure. Otherwise, I'd say don't do it, okay? Because I think if you're working full-time, you're part of the group, okay? And I think part-time people are treated differently. They're sort of
Well,
marginalized.
I think that is a very key learning.
Hello.
Yes, this is Dr. Business. How can I help you?
Hi, I was just wondering if your guest has an opinion about how seriously a part-time worker is taken in his position.
I'm glad you asked that. Let's see what he has to say. Thank you so much, and I appreciate your diligence in coming through the system.
Okay, so at UC Davis, I think my colleagues are impressed that I actually want to attend faculty meetings, that I want to be
So you are
involved.
taken seriously academically in an academic setting.
I think I am, exactly, because I was there 32 years. I'm sort of looked upon as being maybe somebody who knows something, maybe. Okay, so
Now, what about at the National Science Foundation?
I'd say less so. Okay, yeah, because I think the full-time people have more control of the budget, and then they have, you know, and they're more involved in the day-to-day business. Okay.
Well, let me build on my colleague's question.
Sure.
If you are wanting to be taken more seriously and you are still a part-time worker, what could you do? Could you publish? Could you get your name on an article? What could you do to increase your credibility and impact factor as a part-time worker?
That's a good question. So certainly in the academic environment, yeah, you can continue to publish. Okay, so you can continue to be recognized in the academic community. Okay, and the extended academic community. That's a good idea. So you can definitely publish. Okay, which I try to do. First of all, for the sake of my students, because I think they have to publish.
Well, you wanted to get tenure, so you had to publish originally, I'm
Originally,
sure.
yes, but I don't have to publish now. Okay, they can't take away my pension. Okay, okay.
And at the foundation, if you wanted to, I think that's a great question.
Yeah, it is
if
a
you
good-
wanted to be taken more seriously, what would you have to do?
That's a good question. It may not be easy. Okay, because you're not really part of the group. Okay, you're not.
Could you put more time in? Would you be more
I could
visible?
probably put more
Would that
time in,
help?
but the government sets a limit on how much time you can put in as a part-time employee.
Oh, you didn't say that. They
sorry.
pay you evenly, but you only can work a certain amount?
Yeah, you can only work like maybe a day or so a week, 1 to 2 days a week.
Interesting.
1 to 2 days a week. That's it.
So that's hard to be taken seriously.
That's right. That's the government rule. Okay, government-wide. Yes.
Now, what about the concept of not so much publication, but getting your name on monographs or getting your name on white papers? Would they put a part-time person's name, or would you just be a contributor?
So that's another good question. So I would say it's harder at the National Science Foundation to do it because I think it's a fairly top-down organization, and I think they. So I think typically your name's not on a lot of documents there. Okay. So for example, okay. So if any of your guests look at solicitations from National Science Foundation, that's what they call requests for proposals. Okay. A part-time employee would never have his name on the solicitation.
Really?
Okay. It would only be full-time employees.
Interesting.
So, you know-
Well, I hope that answers your question. I want to thank you for calling. Okay, perfect. Now, let's go to something else.
Sure.
Talk about skills. Do you see any difference in terms of the skill sets and what's required to be a part-time worker than it is to be a full-time one?
So in the academic world, I think, as I said, I don't teach. And so,
So you don't need stand-up skills, that's for sure.
That's true, and maybe I don't have them anymore either. Okay, that is, yeah, that's a good point. You're right, exactly. And but you know, I still need my skills for research. I still have to think about what the important problems are.
So you have to be a good problem solver, whether you're full-time or part-time.
That's right. Okay.
What else?
Okay, I'm a good supervisor because I still have graduate
I
students.
thought you said you didn't like managing people.
Ah, that was at SRI. Okay, okay, okay.
So you need to have good people skills.
You do, yes, for sure. Okay.
What else?
Okay, you need to be able to write proposals to get
Good
money.
writer.
To get money.
And that might be whether you're full-time or part-time.
Exactly. You have to give presentations. I go to conferences. I try to present my work or the students' work at conferences. Okay. I'm a member of Professional Computer Society.
So if you had to assess the difference between skill sets of full-time and part-time in your world, in your two jobs, would they be the same?
Except for the teaching, I would say close.
Okay.
Okay, yes, exactly.
Now, I would think that the requirements of establishing credibility, of connecting with people, would need to be higher as a part-time worker, because when you're full-time, you're there. They're not going to be able to sort of dislodge you very quickly. As a part-time employee, it's an at-will situation.
That
and
is
if you're
true.
difficult to work with or high-hatted or sort of
And
condescending.
it's a good point, yes, yeah. Because students would tend to gravitate to full-time faculty. Because first of all, they'll be around. They're pretty sure they'll be around to see them through their PhDs. So you raise a good point, exactly. Okay, so I have to convince them that I'm reliable, that I'll be there for them. Okay.
Well, you were chatting a little bit about your future. If you had to come up with another part-time job, let's say something fell through, what
Okay.
would you do? Would you just keep one, or would you try to find another one? And where would somebody want to hire you as a part-time?
That's a good question. Okay.
Boy, that's 4 good questions. That's pretty cool.
Okay, where would I go? So I say I'd like to think I can be a consultant, okay, in computer security, but I don't know.
But for whom?
Well, okay, so Facebook, basically everybody who works at Facebook seems about the age of my grandkids.
I was about to say you'd be the adult supervisor there. I'm sure.
Right. That gets them.
Would they hire you part-time? I've never heard of any Facebook part-time place.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Okay, so that's industry. What else would be open to you?
Okay, well, government for sure. Okay, so I think the government's generally looking for people, other agencies besides the National Science Foundation. They're looking for senior people who might be able to help out on projects, help to find problems. Okay, I think the government might be a bit.
And the fact that you were no longer at the Science Foundation wouldn't impact their hiring you somewhere else?
It might.
Okay.
It might. I might have
So
less
you have
credibility.
private industry,
I
you
might
have
have less
government
credibility.
work.
I mean, less credibility.
Could you become a part-time adjunct at another school? Or would that be not open to you?
I'd probably have to teach.
And you don't
I'm
wanna
not
do
saying
that.
I don't want to, but I think
Okay.
they'd probably not hire me as a researcher. Okay.
So if you had a third career, it would be another government job or a full-time or a part-time job at a company.
And I think adjunct faculty members are abused at many schools.
I think so too,
Right, yeah.
since I have 2 of those jobs.
Okay, right.
Talk a little bit about what you think the future would be for part-time workers, and then we'll probably have enough for that pearl of wisdom before we close our show. What do you think the future will be? Will there be more part-time workers, less part-time workers? What do you think?
It's another good question. So I think in the academic world, regrettably, I think there'll be more adjuncts in our future.
Because we're cheaper.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, okay. Industry, I think, for a while, I think industry wanted to hire consultants because they don't have to pay benefits. I don't know. I'm not sure about that now. I think industry basically wants full-time employees because they want loyalty. They want
That's a great point. I think also that the concept of independent consultants, you can do 65% marketing and 35% delivery, and it's
That's
very
right.
difficult to market and deliver at the same time.
That's right. I think for the government, I think the government increasingly likes contractors because they don't have to pay benefits. And the contractor pays benefits, but they don't have tenure. So they're not
But we didn't
civil
talk, I bet you don't get benefits anywhere, except for
no.
your pension.
Get my pension. That's all I get. And that's fine. I'm happy with the taxpayers to pay my pension. Okay, very happy. Okay.
Okay, if you had to look at one word as you would characterize a part-time worker, what would that one word be?
Okay. Freedom, I guess I could say.
That's a great. Also, I think that the concept of part-time workers, they end up working harder than the full-time people because they want to make a difference. They want to be well respected. And as your caller said, they want to be taken seriously.
Yes, good
Well,
point.
believe it or not, our show time is almost over. I want to thank you for coming. I want to tell my visitors that we're going to be on May 17th, the final of that show series, and we're going to be having our colleague Pedro Arenas coming to talk to us about 2 part-time jobs that he has. I want to thank you again for coming. I want to thank my crew. I want to wish everyone a great month, and we'll see you in May. And that's the end of the show.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you.
Very good.